Politics has gotten so absurd that sometimes the only way to tell the truth anymore is to laugh at it. Not because it's funny, but because if you don't laugh, you'll go insane. We live in a moment where the loudest voices online are either screaming, moralizing, or pretending that the things Americans see with their own eyes aren't happening. And somewhere along the way, common sense got labeled extreme, while actual extremism got a blue check and a PR team. That's why humor matters. Humor cuts through nonsense. It exposes contradictions. It says what people are thinking, but aren't allowed to say out loud. And it does it without lecturing, without yelling, and without turning politics into a misery contest. My guest today has mastered that lane. GregOnFire has built a massive following, not by chasing outrage, but by holding up a mirror, by parodying politicians who take themselves way too seriously, by calling out insanity with a straight face and a sense of humor, and by reminding people that you don't have to be angry to be right. When Greg takes on figures like Gavin Newsom or Zoran Mamdani, it's not just comedy, it's accountability. It's pointing out how detached the ruling class has become from the lives of normal Americans and doing it in a way that actually reaches people outside the political bubble. And that matters, especially right now, because we're heading into an election cycle where Republicans cannot afford to tune out, where chaos is being rebranded as compassion, where protests are sold as virtue, and where too many people are confusing online extremism with real-world reality. Today, we're going to talk about why humor works in politics, why calling people out with comedy hits harder than rage, where the line is between extremism and common sense, what the ICE protests reveal about our cultural moment, and why the midterms are too important to ignore, even when politics feels exhausting. So if you're tired of the noise, tired of the lectures, and tired of being told to deny what you see with your own eyes, this conversation is for you. GregOnFire is here to light the place up. What's up, Greg?
How are you, Gates, man?
Good, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you got your nitro cold brew in the cup.
This is it right here. In my amazing We the People cup right
That's
here.
right, man. That's right.
These are really nice, actually.
Thank you. This is gonna be high energy. We're gonna laugh, we're having a good time, because one thing we do on this show is we take the issue seriously, but not ourselves. I think that the whole conversation we're gonna have around comedy and parody is needed in this moment because there's so much outrage out there, and sometimes it's fun to just turn to a different channel, get the same information, but delivered in a way that you do it. So build the scene for us. Who is GregOnFire? Where the hell did you come from? Because you are mega viral on Instagram, TikTok, millions of views. Who the hell are you, man?
That is the question, isn't it? We're all trying to find in the universe, who are we? I'm somebody who had a passion for politics and became a dad, and eventually just always had a sense of humor. And my kids are like, you got to do TikTok, Dad. You got to do it, And at some point, I think I was really into, like in the first Trump term, I was really into like Facebook and talking about serious issues. And I realized people get fired up, right? And I could never really stand to have conversations with people on Facebook when I knew that they were just going to be so angry. Like they're so mad, And I'm like sitting there going, they don't get it. They just don't understand. So someplace about a couple of years ago, when I started doing parodies of like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, people are like, my wife's like, why don't you do that with like the stuff you really love to talk about? You're always talking about politics. Why don't you start bringing those characters in? So my wife, I credit a lot to, and my kids, but they were onto something. They said, you better start posting. And my wife was doing TikTok shop and all this stuff. And I'm like, TikTok's for kids, man. I don't want to, I'm not doing that. And little did I know, it's kind of interesting because I started doing TikTok and a lot of the videos caught with the comedy. But then I realized once you move to the other platforms, the audiences, I think, on the other platforms are even better. I love Instagram. Facebook now is growing rapidly. It's interesting because I never thought to myself this many years later, Facebook is going to be a place I go and want to connect with people, after it's like an older platform.
Yeah.
So it's turning around now. And, I guess I am just somebody who loves to laugh and not take life too seriously, because I do have a lot of responsibilities and a dad and a family and a wife, and you try to get not caught up in that life too much to where you can still have fun. I think TikTok and Instagram did that for me. So
yeah,
I know that's a long answer, but
no. And you've done it over such a short period of time, and it's because you're effective. And you talk about all these different platforms, and we thought Facebook was sort of, our grandparents' platform. But I think that's a testament to your material that you can take the same video, put it across multiple platforms with different demographics, different audiences, and you reach them all. They're effective on all of them. And that's because I think you speak in a language that is so relatable. In a world of social media where outrage is so rewarded, you bring humor and you keep it so real when you do it. So why do you think humor is so effective in a world that just sells outrage?
everyone wants to get fired up and talk about things, but they never really relate to people. Anger, you don't relate with people when they're angry. When you go out to a bar or if you're out at a restaurant, and somebody gives you crap, you don't look at them and see anything that you like. There's nothing, right? So if you can make it into a joke, if you can make fun of somebody, like if you can get through being an egotistical maniac and say, I'm just going to be, I'm going to let myself to the humor and just be a little silly once in a while in life. I feel like people relate to that more. Like everybody has that inside. They just don't want to show it. But what people don't have is the tolerance for like a nutcase or somebody who's angry trying to tell them what the deal is. So if you can laugh and you can make somebody laugh, I feel like that's the most relatable way to like have a conversation, really.
100%. Humor is such an engaging form of communication. Outrage obviously is not. It's me against you. And even with humor, when you're taking a shot at someone else, if they have a sense of humor, like I remember back in the day when Saturday Night Live was good. Okay.
I remember.
I mean, you had everything going across the aisle one way or the other, and the politicians that were getting made fun of thought it was funny and all that. We've sort of lost a little bit of that. Now that's probably because SNL has gone the way of the woke and it's not funny anymore. And that
people anymore.
Yeah, and that sort of leads me to the next thing I want to talk to you about is, I look at Libs of TikTok, I look at you, I look at Babylon Bee. I know the people over there very well. The right is so much better at comedy than the left. I mean, you don't see these parody accounts or these satire accounts on the left taking shots at right. So is it, we have a better sense of humor? Like, why do conservatives do comedy so much better than the left?
I don't think they can get through always being right about everything. Like they can't even see their own shadow. When you watch a person like Harry Sisson, you know who Harry Sisson is, right? Yeah. Okay, so sorry, Harry, but here we are. You get on there and he goes, did you see Donald Trump did this? Donald Trump. And then he'll be like, is that ridiculous? And I'm going, where was I? I was supposed to laugh at some point during this. Like if I was a liberal, I'm laughing at some point and I can't find the point. So I think that they don't understand that like you have to actually you have to let go of the ego and you have to be able to be like wrong. You have to be able to be wrong. You can't be funny without giving a little bit of your ego up, I think. And so in my opinion, I don't try to be mean to all the liberals, but there is this like big, heavy, like I'm right about everything. You're a bad person. I think that they take life too seriously. Even in the issues, like we agree on so many more things than we disagree on, right? The past, even under an Obama presidency, Republicans were much more reserved. Because even though they didn't agree with Obama on everything, they understood that like it's politics and it's going to go back and forth and we're going to have debates and we're going to have to be wrong and we're going to have to be right sometimes. And because there's a lot of people in this country, right? But they don't want to be wrong. So when they're not in power, they can't handle it. And the smallest thing you say is just not it's not funny to them at all.
There's two differences, I think, in my eyes, between the right and the left when it comes to comedy. The first one is most of their material writes itself. I mean, if you'd have told me 20 years ago, or told anybody 20 years ago that, boys can become girls and girls can become boys, and we ought to let boys, kick girls' asses in sports, I mean, we'd laugh. It would be comedy, right? So I do think that, free bus rides in New York City, we're going to talk about Mom Dami in a minute. I mean, you make you make buses free in New York City. What do they turn into? They turn into homeless shelters. If I'm homeless, I can get on a bus, ride around for free. I'm just going to stay on that warm bus in the winter and the cold bus in the summer. So, I mean, these things kind of write themselves. I don't see a lot of that coming from our side. And the other thing that's different about us and the left is they look at politics as religion. I think the right does a better job of keeping politics, but politics for the left is religion. And when it comes to comedy, there is sort of like one sacred space where you don't come after. You don't come after my religion. You can joke about anything else you want in my life. Don't joke about my religion. Well, politics for them is religion. So they don't, we could speak about it in such a different manner and they take such great offense to it when we do it. And I just see those as the two biggest differences. But since I brought up Mom Dami, two men leading two of our most liberal, wokest cities out there are Gavin Newsom and Zoran Mondani. And, you do some good takes on them. I mean, you've had some mega viral videos specifically about these two. What do you think it is about those two men that make them so easy to go after with satire and comedy?
They have to go home and be like, I really sold it. Like, they have to be like their actors. They have to be like their actors. If they're not doing that, we have a serious mental illness in this country because, and I think we already do. We could talk about that on a separate note, but like, I think that they just are so SNL.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are the epitome of the new best politicians. I mean, if SNL wanted to nail it, I would be going for those two all day. But the way that Gavin's body language and Mamdani with the smiles, you know, it's like, and the Gavin thing where he's like, we're trying to,
the hands.
He's just like this, and he's like, and you're like, what is this?
With the legs crossed.
Yeah, with the leg crossed, and the Batman voice.
Yeah.
He's always like, best governor ever, largest economy, you know, everything. It's like, and he always goes in those rants. He'll be like, Donald Trump, dictator, me, best governor ever. Working on homelessness, highest GDP. I mean, we're the manufacturing capital. What's he going to do without us? Dictator, impeach him. You know, it's like,
that's pretty good.
It's
that's
just
good.
that's all he good stuff. So, and but it's the rolling of the shoulders for me. Or he's like, I'll be like, what is he thinking? You know, you're like, there's no way. So I think for me, I just had a lot of fun with him. The body language, the ridiculousness. Like, and here's the thing, Gavin Newsom absolutely nips it. I don't know I think Mamdani does too, but Gavin Newsom absolutely knows what he's doing. Because look at the way he took his marketing campaign to X, where he immediately was like, okay, we're just going to be outlandish, right? So he knows when he's doing those things on camera. I also think he looks a little funny sometimes, like he might be doing a little something else. I don't know, but he gets a little funny looking sometimes where he's hyper. So I don't know.
I get it.
Politician. So
I get a kick out of him, this podcast that he has, because the biggest viewership he gets is when he has on a prominent conservative. In his first episode with Charlie Kirk, it went mega viral. We haven't heard about his podcast in months, and then he has Ben Shapiro on, and it goes mega viral. He gets his ass kicked by these people. When he can't answer an argument, he just kind of says, yeah, I get that. Right. Yeah, that's fair. Well, you know, the cameras go off, and he tells a completely different story, but he has no sort of comeback for legitimate voices on his show. So what's your most viral video? And as you think about that, you probably know the answer, but really just virality in general. What do you learn when a video goes viral? Do you ever have people react to it maybe positively or in a way you didn't expect those people to react to it? Do you learn something about your audience? Do you learn something about the discourse? Has there ever been a video that you didn't think was going to go viral and it had a huge pop?
So it's kind of a mix. There was a few different videos. Some people will say I had that 120 million video. I think I've had multiple videos that went to the millions, but I think more recently, it's interesting. More recently, I did a video where I took the Full House theme song, and I kind of just acted like I was doing several. I don't want to say this the wrong way for the internet to be able to put this out, but kind of like you're offing yourself in certain ways, and it said like when people ask me to vote for Democrats.
Yeah,
right.
I saw it. You're drinking the bleach, you're growing
it's jumping in front of
the toaster in the bathtub.
Yeah, exactly, that one. So that was a good one. But I think I also did one where I asked my my wife's son's, like her ex, to be, and this is totally off topic. It's totally random. You probably didn't even see this coming, but to be my best man in my wedding. Oh, actually, was it best man in the wedding? No, it wasn't best man. To be in the wedding, to be a groomsman in my wedding. And when we got married, and that's the guy, the other guy. You know what I'm saying? But he's the father of my stepson. So that one went really viral too, and that was before I was doing politics. So that one, when I saw that though, it kind of made me, when I turned to politics and I started really getting into this thing, I realized that you look at the engagement, you look at the things, you start to hone in on what people really like as you go. It's like a journey, right? Yeah. People see social media and they go, that person does social media, that's cute, right? I promise you, doing social media comedy or anything you do on social media to get big, and you know what I'm talking about. You're grinding, you're doing great, and you're getting huge because you're grinding. It is a grind. Like it is, you have to figure out your lane and you have to really pump and you have to work at it and you have to look at the numbers and be like, why didn't the first 3 seconds of that video get any, like, why did nobody come back? Because the first 3 seconds of that video wasn't good enough. So you kind of find those things that made your videos good along the way. I had a lot of feedback, you know, because like one video will have 10,000 comments. And I will sit there and go through. A lot of people say to me, one thing I do that a lot of people don't do is I go back and I'll write everyone. Like I'll go through one really, and I'll go back throughout the day or throughout the week and I'll try to write everyone back, you know. My DM, sorry guys, not as good. It's really hard. There's too many bad boys in there, too many bad guys. And I'm not really into looking at that. I kind of just shut out a lot of DMs. So just email me. But yeah, but I think you have to just look at what people say. I think that's the biggest thing. If you think you're good and you don't take the advice of other people, and this is for anything in life, for people out there, not just social media, you are never going to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't take the criticisms, if you don't take the, why did I think that video was so freaking funny, but it wasn't to anybody but me, you know?
Social media burnout's a real thing, and people that aren't in the game don't realize that, and people that want to get in the game think, oh, I'm going to post, you know, a couple times a day or whatever. No, it is a grind, and you can burn out, because I always like to say about social media is there's nowhere else where you really have to earn your audience than in social media, because in mainstream media or cable news, or if you write somewhere, there's a lot of places where an audience is delivered to you just by way of being on the television. And that's not to take away anything from anybody in those industries. There's some really prominent, really, really good, legitimate voices out there. But in our world, you have to earn it. And there's plenty of other people to get content from. So the connection with the audience is so important. And I always say niches get riches. How can you be a little bit different, cover the same things, but deliver it in a different message than others? Like I always say about this show, we're never going to be the front page. There's plenty of front page podcasts out there for the breaking news and all the wonky foreign policy stuff you want. We're going to be the back porch. We're going to talk like guys talk, smoking a cigar, drinking a beer, like you have conversation with your wife, maybe date night. Like you've got to really figure out what that connection with your audience is. You've done it in such a massive way, and most people don't read their comments, but I like what you say is feedback is feedback. Obviously there's trolls, obviously there's bots, but feedback is feedback, and whether you like it or not, it can be constructive for how you march forward in the future. One thing, speaking about niches, is, and just sort of a way you've kind of creatively carved yourself out, is, you know, you've been very clear about rejecting extremism, and that's very hard to do on social media because it's an extreme environment. So Greg, how do you personally define kind of the difference between, let's call it common sense conservatism and ideological extremism? And you're welcome to use examples or call others out, or you don't have to do that. But I think that, you know, you sort of had divided yourself from that world so well.
I think that for me, when I started looking at politics, I said to myself, what makes the most sense? Like what's better for all of us and more uniting than not? And when you look at some of these policies and the things going on that are on the fringe, whether it be left or right, there's things that none of us are really focused on. And some of them are just trying to pander to certain people. And it's almost like a game. It's like, how far to the right or left can we go to try to make it look like we feel, you know, we're more sympathetic to a certain group of people. To me, what interests me is getting people together for the common core values of this country, you know, Christian conservative values. Like you don't see, like, let's just be honest here. Okay. You don't see people going out and saying that they want to burn places down and that they think other people shouldn't be able to exist in a Christian society. You don't see that, right? You don't see people going out and saying that they think every single, you know, man that feels like he wears a wig and all of a sudden should compete against women half his height. I think that's normal. You know, you don't see that. You don't see people going back to the 1940s and saying, I'm saying this all as a collective, like all of us together do not believe that people should go back to 1940 and that we should start saying because you're a certain race or whatever, you know, that, you know, and start using crazy words and stuff again. That's not the core value, right? That's not our core values. what made this country great is that we evolved together in a way that we accepted what our heritage was. We accepted where we came from. We moved forward. We made it better. We made it better. These fringe groups are trying to all of a sudden reverse and make things worse for us. Like, the mental illness that's coming out of this is insane. Like, when you get a guy like a Nick Fuentes that will literally go on a microphone and say disgusting things, right? Here's the thing. He plays the line. So he'll say some things that appeal to people and they go, oh, he's right. So then he can sneak in the disgusting things. And, that's maybe one big downfall of social media in our society is like, a person like me is going to go on and I might make jokes. You might not like that I make a joke or play a character that's your favorite person. But I don't ever go out and just demean people into the ground and say horrible things about them and they shouldn't exist, right? There are people that are doing that because they have a microphone and a spotlight now. And it's sad. So to me, the extremism is people who do not want to see this country get better. They don't want to see the world get better. They want to live in a bubble and they want to outcast people that they don't agree with. I think that's probably one of the worst things with social media right now. And these people like a Nick Fuentes, and because you've got other people, so many people said that so many leftists tried to say all these horrible things about Charlie Kirk, right? But Charlie Kirk, at the end of the day, felt like we as a society can be better if we're better together and if we have common values together, right? And he tried to point out that these extreme thoughts aren't really what brings us all together. People that are so used to following the extreme people were going, well, what are you talking about? No, those things are the most important things. So you've got these extremists that are making people believe in things, frankly, that just shouldn't be happening. You know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't be talking about some of these things at all in a normal, like, common sense mindset.
Hey guys, it's Gates. Thanks for tuning in. I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the show. I hear that all the time when I watch and listen to podcasts. And now that I have a show, I know the difference that it makes. It really does boost us in the algorithm. And the better we do in the algorithm, the better guests we're going to get, the better content we're going to be able to produce. This show is not mine, it's yours. So in a way, you're helping yourself. So please like, share, and subscribe, and God bless. There is a difference between criticism and hate. I have no issue with anybody criticizing anyone.
Yeah.
But when you do it in a hateful manner, when you promote hating other people, that's not criticism anymore. When you hate someone, there is no middle ground to even be talked about, discussed, or explored. But when you criticize someone, we can sort of figure out how we can get the Venn diagram to overlap a little bit. And there's so many groups now. And I feel like with Donald Trump getting elected, and many people said this, and Scott Jennings, I believe, wrote the book about it being like the common sense, the restoration of common sense. I feel like we had that for a little while, and then now we have these fringe groups that want to put us in a crisis of common sense. I mean, you're just not seeing and hearing the common sense takes that you used to, and it's up to people like us to keep doing that. So let's now try to do that with a little bit more of a not breaking news, but some sort of cultural issues that are going on in our country, specifically ICE. You've made a number of videos about the ICE protests up in Minnesota and protests everywhere. And so I'm curious, Greg, to get your take on sort of what you think most Americans see that the activists and the media elites are missing. I mean, what do you think the average voter feels like when they're seeing what's going on in a city like Minneapolis?
Well, first, let me just add one more thing to what we were saying.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to find a way to break through and to do the right thing and to have our voices heard. The people that have common sense, like the you and I's that have common sense, because we can't, at the same time that I say social media can be a problem because some people are getting these platforms and they're saying insane things. We have to be able to still have free speech, because the reality is once you start to let the government say, wait a second, they don't really want people to talk, huh? Then they're going to take advantage of that. So we have to remember, people can say what they want to say. I think with so many microphones now, we just have to be the ones to lead. All the people out there, Christian conservatives, have to be the ones to lead and to take this country forward and to speak out, right? We're not the violent ones. We're not the extremists. We're not burning places down. We never even said there was a problem with other religions having their things. It's just when it turns extreme and you're allowing the extreme sides of society to take a hold and to burn places, to riot in cities, to stop fathers from being able to pick up their kids from school because you want to stop traffic. Like the things that aren't actually affecting the politics at the level that it's going to make change. where you're just now going after everyday Americans and hurting their lives. But I think that there's going to be a waterfall effect. I think eventually people are going to be like, I'm done with this insanity. Just get it away from me. And I think there's a scale that teeters, and I think you're going to see us kind of, I see it already. It was happening with Charlie, the youth coming out in the numbers. I mean, just 4 years ago, we were going, what is happening? We thought that the blue-haired bull ring liberal was going to be every kid in the youth. And now look at 20,000, 40,000 chapters across the country of Christian turning point chapters that are trying to promote conservative values. And it's like, I think that ultimately, to be honest with you, without Charlie Kirk and without Turning Point USA, I don't think we would ever be in the position that we're in with the youth.
No, I don't think that's a feeling. I think that's a fact. I think you're right about that. I mean, Donald Trump himself has said that Turning Point USA was probably the most influential force in winning him the election. And I think that Americans have such short memories, right? Like, we've already moved on to criticizing this administration and why it needs to go and all that. Do people not remember, you mentioned 4 years ago, do people not remember what we just went through and all the issues and problems that our country now faces because of 4 years under Biden? And can you imagine under Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? I mean, it'd be a nightmare. So it's like, count your blessings. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And then on social media, I mean, look, there's a lot wrong with social media, but what it has done is it has removed the gatekeepers and the tremendously high, impossible to overcome barriers to entry that were in the media. And now anyone can have a voice. Now, that's bad because anyone can have a voice, but it's also good because it gives everyone a voice. And you and I are big promoters of free speech. But what I've said, and you bring up, Christians and conservatives, is the loudest voices tend to win on social media. We need to overwhelm the algorithm. We need people like you, people like me, to overwhelm these algorithms with truth, with beauty, with goodness, with comedy. And I think as people age, as people mature, they will sort of grow out of these phases that they live through on social media. But we've got to keep our foot on the gas too, because the enemy always is, and they live in that space.
Absolutely.
And so
well said, man.
I love what you're doing there. And back to ICE, these drugs. No. Because what I love is, like, again, I've said it already on this episode. We don't do a lot of breaking news stuff on this show, but a lot of the things that break in the news transition over into culture, and cultural movements get created. And we're at the risk of seeing George Floyd 2.0 in Minneapolis right now. And again, your videos with the blue hair and the bull ring and the nose are great. So I just want to get your take on, what do you think the average American is seeing when they look at Minneapolis? Because on TV, it does look like a third world country. It does look like a hellhole. And I don't know if the over coverage of it gives people more sympathy or more anger. Like, this is a disaster. Like, stop showing this to me. Fix it. I don't know if it's ICE. I don't know if it's federal, local. Just fix it. You ruined it. Do something about it. What's your take on all of this?
I think the problem is, I don't think there's a silver bullet, but I'll say, just doing social media and being on all the time and seeing and doing videos, I still do hot takes about topics, that come up like this, like ICE, and I've done skits, but people are giving me a lot of feedback in the comments, and I feel like I see more people sick of it than not, like sick of seeing people ride in the streets and hurt people and go crazy and think that that's the answer to make change, because the majority of people aren't feeling that way. There was a reason why, and they want to say whatever they want to say about Trump. Say whatever you want. The guy won the election. He also won the popular vote. If a Democrat wins a popular vote, my God, they are the biggest thing in since sliced bread. But Trump won those things and he ran specifically on getting rid of criminals, deporting.
Promises made, promises kept.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, the majority of people still want this, but I think the coverage and the way that the media has been covering it, and they still do not learn, because they have an agenda, right? They're going to keep pushing that agenda, so I guess they probably know they're not learning. But yeah, know what I'm saying? But they're showing over and over again these things and of the protests and everything. And I think people see more of the bad than the good coming out of this, what it's doing to everyday Americans' lives. Like I said, I saw a video, and I did a video on a guy who was freaking out in traffic saying, I got to pick up my daughter all the way across New York, and he couldn't get through.
Yeah.
And I saw an old woman with a walker. She was an old white woman. Right? She's probably 85, 90 years old, and she had a walker with little fuzzy blue hair, and she could barely get across the crosswalk. And, sometimes you think these people are annoying and sometimes they don't drive that well, whatever, because they're older. But at this moment, when she just wants to get across the crosswalk in a major city and can't get across, the husband's so old, he's not going to fight these young guys that are doing this. But you got these masked protesters that think that this is going to make a point, that blocking a 90-year-old woman from getting across on a walker is going to make some kind of wrong. These have become terrorists. This is no longer like doing anything positive for our country. So I think when you see us amplify those points of views, it's really important. I urge all creators to keep putting out the information that you see, that's the bad stuff that you're seeing. Like obviously, you don't want to see that there are mistakes that happen occasionally. Like there's always been mistakes with law enforcement. There's episodes that happen. Like it is what it is. In the majority of the situation with law enforcement versus the bad guys, we have to have law enforcement. We cannot make our law enforcement, we cannot vilify them. We can't make them the bad guys. Without them, we lose everything. I mean, we become a third world country. And people love to stand up there and huff and puff their chests and F the police and all this stuff. But without the police, they wouldn't be able to go out to the store without being robbed. They wouldn't have to go out, without being killed just in their own streets. So it's really sad to see that the extremists have just forgotten, people want to live ordinary lives. People want to enjoy their lives. You should not be waking up every day and being like, how can I ruin everyone's life today?
Right.
And that's what it's become.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to do something to the government. It's like I'm going to go out and make a ma and pa today pay. And that's actually evil.
Yeah. Protesting has become a profession.
Right.
And,
yeah.
that's a fun thing to say, but it's true in the fact that these people are getting paid. I mean, the money's being traced to where organizations are paying people to go protest. And, regardless of what you think of ICE in your city, this is an avalanche of things that the left created, just one after another. I mean, none of this would exist if leftist policies didn't allow this to build and crescendo to this moment. I mean, when you create sanctuary cities, illegal immigrants are going to flock to those cities, okay? And then you're going to have law and order, and it's going to unrest in the city. And then when you have a lack of law enforcement or a lack of appreciation for law enforcement, the same cities that are sanctuary cities want to defund the police. You're turning the city over to, the inmates are running the asylum. It's no surprise that there is an insurrection here. And right. President Trump gave these cities every warning possible to fix it before he had to come in and do something. So it's like, we wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for all these other things that you all created in these cities. There's a reason we're here in Florida. This doesn't happen here. There's a reason that this only happens in certain cities that are run by certain individuals. So I think it's something to think about. And I think it's going to play a role in the midterms. And one thing I like about you is, it's all fun. It's all great videos and all that, but you do care deeply about these issues. And when I was talking to you this week, you're like, man, we got to talk about the midterms because we can make funny videos. We can be influential on social media, but at the end of the day, we have to win elections. So where do you think we're at with the midterms? I mean, it's depending on who you talk to, not looking great for the Republicans. It's typically the case in an off-year election and the things flip. But then you see what's going on in the country right now and what we're doing in places like Venezuela. And it's like, well, things are a lot better now than they were a few years ago. Everybody wants to talk about affordability. It looks like there's some productive and positive changes around there. How the hell do we win these midterms, Greg?
I think you're always going to see the 90% negative coverage, right? I think at the end of the day, we have to make sure that people are getting the message out that if the things that people voted on are happening, right? So promises made, promises kept, like you said. So if we're not going to get things done in Congress that put the message out, if we do something in Congress, the message must go out. We must get those things done and say what we're doing. I think that's my biggest harp right now on Congress is, because that's a lot of the weight of what's happening here, right? It's the midterms is basically the incumbent party fighting to say we did what we said we were going to do. We have to make sure that we're delivering promises, voting on things and getting bills out. I think there's been a little sluggishness to that. And I blame our own Congress for not really taking it seriously enough. I mean, we always go through this. We're like, when are the politicians going to get in and stop, waking up at 11 and eating breakfast and hanging out with their buddies before they want to talk about anything? Because once they get in, they're in, right? Yeah. They're all in. So I think it's going to go that way with Democrats and Republicans. There's no silver bullet to getting what you want. There's going to have to be dialogue and discussion on each side. So you can't just say you think that, the Republicans get 2 years with, obviously everything and all the distractions going on. How long did they talk about Epstein? How long did they talk about, now we're talking about these riots. We're going to do this again. It's the summer of love 2.0.
Yeah.
But we got to get back to just doing some things, passing some things. And if you really look at it, I think that when you look at the budget bill and we see some of the results coming in hopefully over this year because of that, you've got the tax cuts. Hopefully people see those tax cuts and realize that it's doing something for this country, for people putting money back in their pockets. But then we also just need to stick with law and order and say, clean up the streets, like make it better. I heard a lot of people on social media telling me that the cities that they came in, they try to fluff it the left and say, he just put people in there and to huff and puff his chest. But I heard a lot of people say you could walk out on the streets again in Washington and not feel like you were just going to get mugged, right? You could go to your car, you could see the sun setting and not want to run. So I think that at the end of the day, they're going to tell the story the way they want. The media is going to do their job. They're going to have their fun. But if people are seeing the results, that's all that matters. So we have to make sure that people know this is what we're doing. This is the result you're going to get. Stick to it. Don't listen to all the scrambled messaging and, the jargon coming out of the left. And then I think you win elections. If you stick with the plan, right? Stop averting your time to all these other things that don't matter and just say, well, today we're going to go in and vote on things and get something done, we promise.
The good thing about Donald Trump is if we only get 2 years with a House and Senate and all that, he gets so much stuff done. So it's like, he packs so much stuff into such a short amount of time that you're at least getting the benefit of it until the midterms. Hopefully we win the midterms. I think we got a little ground to make up there.
I think they will pack a lot more. I think this year he's going to go on a run.
Oh, yeah.
And, they kind of dragged their feet a little bit, but to be fair, there were a lot of distractions. Yeah. But they got to run now. Yeah. This is no longer a marathon. Yeah. This is a sprint.
So listening to you talk there, you give such substantive answers. This isn't the guy on TikTok making the parody videos. And the reason I sort of draw the contrast between you here and you on social media is I get the sense that as a creator, you feel a responsibility to make a change. I mean, I think some people look at creators and they think it's their business, and it is, and they're, having fun and going viral and all that. But with you, I get the sense that you feel responsible for moving the needle in this country. So what is the responsibility of a content creator? Should they be mobilizing audiences to greater causes, or should they just be, going viral every day?
I think I like the idea of living your life with meaning. So for me, the meaning in my life, it took me a long time to figure it out. And when I started to see my audiences grow based off of really trying to do something that changed the message for people, and people coming to me and being like, I'm telling you, Gates, like I would tear up. People are like, oh, you don't understand what you did for me, and write these long messages. I was I was in Orlando at the Hard Rock Hotel, and I was walking into the elevator, and the elevator doors open. I was with my wife and 3 kids. And a guy looks at me straight in the face and he goes, I love your TikTok stuff. And I took a photo with him and I talked to him and I said, hey man, thanks. And I was just going about my day and I was like, hey, thanks so much, man. Right. Well, I look 2 months later and I'm digging deep into my spam DMs and stuff. And somehow he had 1 follower and no profile pic and a long message to me. And I cried when I read that message. But I realized that as much as I was having fun doing what I'm doing, it's turning towards having meaning and for a lot of people. So I think that some people could probably make comedy and take you out of the everyday life, and that might be their job. They might be the ones that have harmless, great comedy where they just talk about the things you go through every day in your life. And I love those guys. For me, I had to do more. For me, I couldn't do the skits. I tried doing the skits where you're when you wake up every morning and your kids or your wife or, or your job, and there was those guys that you watch and I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're spot on. And so that actually makes me take my mind out of it. So I think we need those types of people, but we also need people that bring the truth like you. We need people that want to come out, deliver a message, have a purpose, feel like you're actually changing society. And, and that's why I was really excited to come on your show, by the way, because I know that you have a lot of meaning behind what you do. You're not just a news headline reader. You're not an Aaron Parnas or a Harry Sisson or a Dean Withers that just loves to go, breaking news, somebody is murdered. It's not, like you have real conversations. And I think if we have that opportunity, if people have that opportunity, try to find something better to do, more meaningful right now with the way our society is, like try to find something. Like I started a devotional. It's a separate TikTok and Instagram, and it's called Greg's Devotional. And it rapidly on TikTok was gaining traction because, and a lot of people are saying, there's a lot of Christians out there that are like feeling the burn right now. And so I'm just trying to find ways right now to connect with people and to make them feel like we're going to be okay. Right.
Yeah.
And that stay the course, like be a good person, like go to church, spend time with family. Don't spend your time in the gutter and with bad people, and just try to redirect your life. I thought when I first learned about Christianity alone, and I'm sorry if I'm harping too much on your channel about it, but the number one thing for me was when I was battling in my mind whether I believed or not, was the fact that in the end, the principle is that you live a good life, right? And there's a good outcome of that. And that's it. So if people are out there and they're struggling, I want them to try to find something to look towards, look towards something positive. Jesus, I'm telling you right now, is changed my life and the way I see things every day. Some people, it might just be simply, saying that you have hope in the things you love doing. So go out and do what you love to do, and just don't get so caught in the negative cycle. There's so many nasty, negative people that just want to take us down.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to lift people up. I want to bring people together. I want Christianity to prevail in this country. I love what it's done and what it means for me. So I think, everybody has their own lane, but when you find that lane, and if you can make a difference, go do it.
The practice of gratitude is one of the best ingredients a human can have in their life. And that's not my opinion. People that have higher levels of gratitude are happier people. They're more fulfilled people. And for me, because you brought it up, my faith in Jesus Christ and my Christianity makes me a very gracious person. I mean, it's the glass overflowing type of mindset. You can always focus on negative things, but there's so much more light, so much more positive things in the world to focus on. And that's why I think you connect with so many people, because laughter is a positive thing. Laughter makes you feel better. Yeah. My show's called We the People because we want to reach everyday Americans where they're at. Okay. You go to people where they're at. You enter into their homes through their screens and you make them laugh. You've got a pulse on everyday America. So I'd like to get your vantage point, your thoughts on what you think the political class gets wrong about everyday Americans.
I think that they want people they want fear. People don't want to fear. People want out of that. So when they look to politicians, they look to get out of what's ruining my life. What am I struggling with? And instead of the politicians taking that and running with it and saying, I'll make a difference, let's actually do something, the majority of them are, obviously for probably many reasons, take and just go, you know what, we got them right where we want them. Now let's just keep stringing them along. And they get all the power and they do nothing, right? So people put all their faith in government. And I think that's one of the biggest things about conservatism, is I feel like people, are putting too much faith in government, and we should get that out of government a little bit and start trying to live our everyday lives. They think they know that they can suck everybody in and get whatever they want and live the lives they want by holding the power. So I think they get wrong that people care so much about them. They really just care about trying to have a better life, and they don't know where to redirect that energy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in the world that we're in, the online world, hard place to be optimistic. I mean, you can follow the right accounts like yours, like mine, but generally most people aren't going online to find things to be optimistic about. I mean, fear and greed sell, and that's what's on the front page of every headline and newspaper. But
right,
you're overflowing with optimism. I know you are. I'm the same way. What gives you optimism right now in the offline world? When we get off the screens, I mean, it's a whole different world. What pumps you up?
Honestly, I think family. I think my kids. I think I'm actually a person who just likes to do things that are almost meaningless when I'm not actually trying to do meaning for other people. I like riding roller coasters. I like spending time playing baseball with my kids. So ultimately, to me, I think like living a life with love, laughter, too many people, like you said, are caught up in the social media realm where they're getting the negative is taking over their lives. So I like to get out. When I get out, and I am not perfect by any means. Like, I have my arguments with my wife. I say the wrong things all the time.
No way, man.
No way. Yeah,
I never.
yeah. So like when it's like I say I'm a Christian. I'm a conservative. I make bad decisions all the time, and everybody needs to know that you can be something, even if you aren't it yet. Like, you can always strive to be a better person. You can always strive to do something better. And you can literally go out there, turn off your cell phones, delete it, get some sunshine in the corneas, get some vitamin D, touch some grass, and delete TikTok if you have to, right, for a while. But there is a life out there where the sun's beautiful, the waves are beautiful. I like to surf. The mountains are nice. Go climb a mountain. My friend just was texting me the other day, climbing a mountain. Go climb a mountain. But I think that, we're caught up in wanting to have meaning, and we're putting it all into the meaning is being the social media like face, being all those things. I couldn't just do that full time. To me, it's because I see the results of what's happening. And I also, it's a little bit of a creative outlet as well, too, obviously. I just love making skits, but I combine that. But I think when you get outside of that, there's nothing else good. Stop the doom scrolling. Go out. What do you think? What's your opinion? What do you like to do when you get off this thing?
Oh my gosh. You hit on so many of the things that I enjoy. For me, I got to spend time with my family. I got to exercise, and I got to have a good book. I mean, that's it, man.
Man, you are good. You are in shape, bro.
You're really good. For me, it's like, all the right areas of my life are about the health of that area. Is my relationship with my wife and kids healthy? Is my body healthy? Is my mind healthy? Is my soul healthy? So if I can spend time with family, I was just writing a monologue that I'm going to record, and it was all about sort of what my weekend looked like versus what some other people did out in public this weekend. And it's like, I went on a date with my wife. I went to 2 of my boys' football games. I went to my daughter's 4-hour theater rehearsal. Went to mass, and I worked out twice. I mean, and I probably read a book somewhere in there. Like, life is balance, man. And people get confused in work-life balance. I don't think it is work-life balance. I think it's just your life. Work is a part of your life.
Right.
All these other areas are a part of your life. And if you can balance those in a way that fulfills you and gives you gratitude. And at the end of the day, did I put something down on paper today that made some environment better, whether it's my country, whether it's my home environment, whether it's my brain space? Like, stack pennies, man. I had Corey LaJoy on the show, famous NASCAR driver. He's got a podcast called Stacking Pennies. And he just talks about, if you can stack a penny every day, one day you wake up, those pennies are quarters. You wake up, they're dollar bills, they're hundreds. Just stack those pennies. And every once in a while, a penny's going to fall off the top. You're going to have a bad day. But if you let that derail you and set you back forever, that's not the way to go. Just constantly moving forward in the areas of your life that are most important to you and are leaving the world a better place than the way you found it.
I love the stack pennies thing. You just gave me something I'm going to bring home,
man. Yeah,
that's
for sure,
cool, man.
All right, so I got one more kind of fun question for you, and then I want you to tell everybody where to find you and all that. You're a social media creator, but you're also a consumer. Tell us how you consume social media when it's not your stuff. Is it for ideas? Is it for news? Is it for fun? Or is it like, hey man, I don't consume it because I produce enough of it?
That's the big problem, right? Like, I want to have a life, and I don't want to just doom scroll all the time or go through and look at things. It's really funny. I will tell you an honest truth. I enjoy sports a lot. Like, I love football. I love baseball. I'm really into the fantasy football thing. I won my league. I was like, it's like a little mini jackpot, but with all my boys. But like, I think that for me, it's a lot of sports stuff. But I do have to you'd have to look at stuff. You have to look at stuff to be, inspired. I'll see things and I'll be like, there is no way that just happened. And then it comes out to be the next video that goes out, and a lot of people get to see that, and it was important. Or I'll see a character and I'll go, okay, if I show how that person really is, it's going to give people to laugh about it, but then they're going to go, wow, he really is that character, like that politician really is.
So I got a question for you.
So
you see something and you're like, gotta make a video on this. Are we talking that video's out in an hour? That video's out in a day or two? What's the process?
If I don't get to it, for the most part, if I don't do it pretty quickly, I'll forget. I tried using Apple Notes. I'll pull it up and I'll be like, oh God, I got to do a video about this topic or whatever. It's tough though. You stack those in there. But I think, like, for instance, some collabs will take time. Like I was Mom Donnie, and my friend Caitlin plays
Miss Rachel.
Miss Rachel. She's the famous one that plays Miss Rachel. And we just did a skit and it went pretty viral. And I think we talked about doing another one. But that one was, I think we talked for 2 months, and she goes one day. So we met at AmFest finally, and she's like, we're going to do this. And she came dressed as Miss Rachel. I'm like, oh my God. So she's like, we're going to do this, but we did it. And, but for the most part, it's like, I'm just like looking around. I could be out at a restaurant. I'm like, what kind of props can I find now? I got to do it now,
Oh, wow.
Or if it's simply, a lot of my stuff is simply just seeing something that's ridiculous that people need to know this shouldn't be happening. I'll just clip it right there on a screen record and just do the video wherever I am, because I think some things are better off caught in the moment. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, when I get home later, I want to make fun of Mom Donnie or, because of what he said earlier, but so it's a mix, but mainly pretty quickly. If I don't do it, it's going to be, and then sometimes, like you said, we're grinding, we're always doing this stuff. I will just like not want to record sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll go home, and the next day I'll wake up and I'll, maybe we'll go to church, or maybe we'll go to the gym, or maybe we'll go out, do something, go to Universal. We like to go to Universal, and we go out and do stuff. And then I'll be like, man, I didn't film when I had a chance to film. But at the same time, then my son's always like, my sons and my daughter are always like, but you had a great time. Yeah. And I'll be like, okay, you're right.
I always tell people in our world, like, the opportunity cost is always there, because there's always content. There's always something you can record, and you're not going to do it all. And you're always passing on something that could go viral or could be good. It's a high opportunity cost. Yep. I think after watching this, the few people that don't know you or follow you, the few are going to want to. So where can people find you? Is there maybe a sneak peek at a piece of content that's coming?
Well, actually, you inspired me on this podcast to start doing the Gavin Newsom parodies of him having, I want to do Shapiro now.
Okay.
I think I want to do Shapiro, and I want to do some other ones that deserve to be done. So that's just, I'm going to text you about that later when I get that done. I'm going to say, you're going to be the first person to see it. But when you talked about that earlier and you said something about Gavin, I go, all right, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So somebody actually mentioned that to me before. They're like, why aren't you doing Gavin's podcast? So you gave me that spark, man. So, hey, changing people's lives every day. Gate Carver, right here, bro. Yeah, that's it.
All right, where can everybody find you?
Instagram, everything's basically GregOnFire. YouTube, wait, let's see. YouTube is Greg is Fire. I just started a YouTube, Greg is Fire. TikTok, Greg is Fire. Instagram, X, and Facebook are GregOnFire. I know that's hard to. I try to put Greg is Fire still in the bio or on the name, so you can kind of tie that together, because originally it was Greg is Fire and TikTok, but any of just call me Greg. You'll find
Well, based on the numbers, people know how to find you. And I'm glad they're finding you here. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks so much, man. Seriously, you're amazing.
Hell yeah.
Anytime.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
Hey, we the people like Garcia, so that's no excuse.